Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast, part of the Bet Rivers Network. We come to you before Game 4 of the NBA Finals, and you've heard this pretty much everywhere, and it makes a lot of sense. This is going to be the pivotal game in the series. Um, Obviously, the Knicks win tonight. They have a commanding 3-1 lead. They have a terrific chance to secure their first championship since 1973. If the Spurs win tonight, it will obviously not only stun this city and stun the Knicks, it will obviously give this young team a tremendous surge of confidence. Plus, they'll have home court advantage. Now, there'll have been no home court advantage, but that does not mean that would not change in the last 3 games of this series. Uh, it would mean the visiting team had won all 4 games of the series, which is highly, highly unusual. But again, it would put San Antonio back in a commanding position and would change this series radically. So obviously, Game 4 is going to uh, be pivotal without any question. Now, so much of the talk, first of all, people were waiting to see if Wemby was going to get hit with a flagrant. He did not. Um, I would not have given him a flagrant for that play. I think that play has been overrated. Uh, it was a foul. There's no question about it. I did not think, though, that it was as bad as everybody made it out to be. Number one. Number two, I did not think the Knicks lost that game because the officials did a bad job, or were, you get into this nonsense that you hear on the radio and everything else. Oh, they wanted them to win the game. That is such nonsense. If you watch that game fair and square, the Knicks committed every single foul. Now, if you want to tell me that San Antonio got away with some calls, I'll buy that. First of all, in this series, San Antonio is going to go to the foul line more than the Knicks are. When you have a team that has a player like Wemby, you are going to see him parade to the foul line more than anybody else. And Brunson goes to the foul line a lot. But a guy like Wemby is always going to go to the foul line more than everybody else, number one. Number two, San Antonio drives the ball to the basket all the time. So they are going to get more foul calls than the Knicks are. The Knicks are going to take more perimeter jump shots than San Antonio is. So the idea that they have taken 20 more free throws in 3 games, while it is a advantage, it is not outrageous in any way. Now, the Knicks shot 14 free throws in the first half. San Antonio shot 8. They shot 24 in the second half to the Knicks 8. That's a lot. But the Knicks got in foul trouble and committed some stupid fouls. So while I understand Brown posturing, and what Brown did is what every veteran coach has done during the NBA Finals forever, and that is you're trying to set the officials up for the next game to get a fair whistle. That's all. It's been done from everybody you've ever seen, go back to the days of Red Holtzman, Red Auerbach, go back to the days of anybody you want, okay? It's been done by every NBA guy in the history of the league. So it's no surprise there. It's done all the time. It's done in every series. Anybody who watches the NBA Finals knows that. You're always setting the officials up for the next game. So that's fine. But that's not why the Knicks lost that game. The Knicks lost that game because for the first time during that whole unbelievable run, they did not respond. They missed 10 straight threes in the fourth quarter, shots they've been making game after game after game. They turned the ball over 13 times. And the points off turnovers was 21-7 for the Spurs. That's 14 points. Plus, the Knicks defense was poor against dribble penetration by San Antonio the entire night. And Wemby went to the basket and was aggressive. It was a different player. And way too much Brunson. Way too much Brunson. Way too much one-on-one. Way too much Brunson. Put the ball back in Towns' hands. Run your offense through Towns and get back to being what the Knicks have been when they've been unbelievable in the postseason. And that means move the ball and move the bodies. They didn't do either. They were completely stagnant on offense. They're standing around watching Brunson dribble the ball for 20 seconds. That's when the Knicks offense stinks. So if you're the Knicks, you want to get back to winning this game, number one, run the offense that you ran during all those successful postseason games. And that means let Towns have the ball and be an originator. He was a forgotten man the other night. Because of the early foul trouble and the way the game unfolded, Bridges was a forgotten man all night. All night. And remember, Bridges hasn't been a forgotten man at any time in this postseason. He was a forgotten man the other night. And the Knicks had no movement. They didn't move bodies. They didn't have cutters. They didn't move the basketball. They didn't do the things they've been doing, which is move the ball, get a ton of assists, move the bodies, spread the floor, make yourself difficult to guard, and understand that everybody can score. Now, things didn't go right. Shamet didn't make his threes the other night for the first time in the postseason. He went 1 for 7. In big spots, they went 0 for 10. They've turned the ball over. Brunson's turned the ball over too many times in every game. He hasn't played well. He has scored, but he hasn't played well. And go back to doing what you did when Towns became the originator. It works. Put Brunson off the ball, which will make it easier for him to get good looks, not harder. And remember this, they adjusted on both ends of the floor in game 3. I screamed about it for 2 games. They adjusted. They kept Wemby with a foot in the paint, which means they are not going to guard Hart. Hart's going to have to actually shoot them into a change. They will not come out just because he makes 2 or 3 threes. They will come out if it just becomes a huge problem. They are going to leave him open on the perimeter. And if he gets off cold, which he didn't the other night, and they still did it. Listen, they did what they had to do. They put Wemby back inside on both ends of the floor. They got him to the basket. They got him rolling to the basket. They got him getting the ball as he rolled to the basket. They got him understanding that his job is to go to the basket. He's not a classic low box player. We understand that. Okay? Spend the summer with Tim Duncan and learn how to become that. But his mentality was to go to the basket, to move towards the basket, to make himself a target, to roll the ball to the basket, to put the ball on the floor and get to the basket, to start his offense way closer to the basket, all the things he did. So Wemby being anchored to the basket on both ends of the floor was a huge change for San Antonio in game 3. The Knicks are going to have to deal with that tonight. How do you deal with it? Put Towns on the perimeter with the ball. Let him originate the offense and spread it out. That will allow you to put Brunson in a place where you can quickly throw him the ball and where he should be able to, off that positioning, get into an open crease without Wemby in his face. And that will get him easier looks. Move. No stagnation on offense. Originate the offense with Towns. Okay? And on defense, stop the dribble penetration. They went to the basket all night. Castle went to the basket at will. You can't let a guy get to the front of the rim on every play. plus silly fouls. Silly fouls, and understand that you have to counteract Wemby on both ends based on what they adjusted to. They moved him inside defensively, no more roaming, and he went and got inside position on offense, which makes him a completely different player and actually makes him a lethal player offensively. Because once he catches the ball in there, he's going to get fouled or he's going to score. 9 out of 10, he's going to get fouled or he's going to score. That's all there is to it. And keep the Knicks out of silly foul trouble tonight. The Knicks, listen, they came home. The streak had gotten very long. They won 2 games, 2 very close games in San Antonio. It was human nature that they were going to be a little self-satisfied. They were a little self-satisfied in game 3. They fell into some bad habits that you haven't seen from them in game 3. Plus, once San Antonio came out in the third quarter and answered the bell from 7 down, the Knicks had a great second quarter. If the first 3 minutes of the third quarter, the Knicks come out and put a 8-0 run on them, the game's over. They didn't do that. The Spurs put a 6-0 run on them, and the game was going to be a tight one the rest of the way. And the Spurs played the fourth quarter from in front and made their shots. Castle made the 3 at the end of the shot clock, which was huge. Wemby made his free throws, and Fox made the dagger. He made the dagger. He didn't have a big game, but he made the dagger. And they're going to put the ball in Fox's hands at the end of these games. There's no question in my mind. They should. He also looked quicker. He is very quick. He has not looked quick in the postseason because he's been on a bad ankle, as Taylor says hello to somebody. He looked much better. He looked quicker. It's something the Knicks are going to have to deal with. Listen, there are occasional guys who are going to bother you in San Antonio, but San Antonio is about Wemby, Castle, and Fox. That's what it's about. It's about Wemby all the time, both ends of the floor. It's about Castle's relentless defense and his edgy offense. He is a terrific young player. And it's about Fox when they need him in big spots. That is San Antonio. The Knicks have answers in every place. But the other night, for the first time, hey, when they threw it to Shamet, he didn't make the shot. They turned the ball over in big spots. They didn't play good defense in big spots. They made dumb fouls. Now, I think there's a feeling, and I would look for this early tonight. I think there's a feeling, and I think if you're San Antonio and you're Wemby, you got to be very careful of this tonight. There's a feeling that this series has gotten too physical. And I think the game's going to get called very close in the first quarter tonight. I think they're going to try and set a tone and say, listen, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they went and told both teams before the games tonight, hey, we're not going to let you clutch and grab everybody. We're not going to let you push people around by the head. We're not going to let you do some of the stuff that you, all the clutching, all the grabbing on every play, everything that's going on. You know what? Don't do it tonight. And I think they'll back that up in the first quarter of this game tonight. And that means Towns has to watch it. That means if you're San Antonio, Wemby has to watch it. And the Knicks have to go back to the fluid motion offense that was so pretty with Towns originating it in the playoffs. They went away from that. They went back to their bounce with Brunson offense. And it's stagnant and it's ugly and it's ineffective. Brunson scored a lot of points. He's also taken 81 shots in 3 games. I believe the next highest Knick is 37 shots. He's taken 81 shots in 3 games. Plus, he's averaged, I think, 5 turnovers a game. 81 shots. You better score points if you take 81 shots in 3 games. The aside the other night, I know that a lot of the fans were put off. I don't think any of that stuff with the president. Alright, listen, it made it very inconvenient. I had people who were online and didn't move for an hour and a half texting me and stuff like that. I understand they inconvenienced people the other night, and it was a bad idea to do that because it was such a special time for the Knicks fans. The last thing you wanted to do was take away their joy, which is what happened with all that commotion outside the stadium before the game. And a lot of the focus was lost because too much of the focus of that game becomes, "Oh, if Trump's on the screen, is he gonna get booed? Is he gonna get shit?" Who the hell cares? Who the hell really cares? If you're watching that, if you're there or if you're watching that, you're there to watch an NBA championship game be played. You're there to experience a championship game. Who the heck cares if Trump is booed or cheered? Hey, he's a second-term president. Usually, they aren't that popular. He's a second-term president who has become incredibly divisive. So he's gonna get booed. And we know it's gonna be reported inaccurately on this side and inaccurately on that side because that's the world we live in now. Bottom line is he got booed the other night. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares how many minutes he was there? Who cares what he did when he was there? What he ate? Whether he closed his eyes? I don't care. I don't need the presidential TikTok about what he did for every minute he was in the building. I could care less. Let me watch the game in peace. At least that will be the case tonight. Was it a distraction? Yes, it was a distraction. It took away from the atmosphere that everybody wanted. Now tonight, there will be a different feel there. It will actually be louder tonight than it was the other night for this reason. The Knicks fans know they have to win this game tonight. If they don't win this game tonight, there's a very good chance they don't win this championship. And after winning the first 2 games in San Antonio, that would be a collapse of monumental proportions. So this is tonight, Madison Square Garden, 8:30, game 4. This is the biggest game the Knicks have played in forever. Most likely, this game will decide the championship. And if you're a Knicks fan, this has to be a Knick night. Now, again, we mentioned what has to change for the Knicks. You saw some bad habits in game 3. You saw some things in game 3 you haven't seen in recent games. It happens. Listen, they hadn't lost in over a month. And San Antonio showed poise. Wemby did what great players do. He responded off a nightmare ending in game 2 and played better and gave you a big game. And you know what? Now you're gonna have to deal with him the rest of the series. I don't think there's any question. And you're gonna have to deal with them because they're growing up in front of your eyes. They're a very young team that is growing up in front of your eyes. They showed terrific poise in game 3. They showed no poise in games 1 and 2. So don't think this is gonna be easy. But the Knicks have to go back to being the Knicks that we've seen in the postseason. They were not that in game 3. Now, obviously, we'll be with you as soon as the game ends this evening. And I wanna tell you, in what I've heard from whatever, I listened to, whether it was TV, in the car, on the radio, whatever I've listened to, I thought the Knick fan really made way too much out of the conspiracy stuff with the fouls and really, really overdid that. The Knicks deserved to lose game 3. They got outplayed. That's the bottom line. San Antonio did things more intelligently, was poised, and made adjustments. The Knicks fell back into bad habits. That's why they lost game 3. No other reason. Stop making excuses. Today, back in June 10th, 1973, I saw this morning on a flashback, and I said, wow, it was one of the great sporting events, historic sporting events of all time. And you don't have to be a horse racing fan to understand that that was the case. Nobody had won a Triple Crown since the Great Citation in 1948. It was 1973. And Secretariat, who had been the two-year-old champion, who had been syndicated for a record amount as a two-year-old, but who had lost leading up in the Wood Memorial to the Derby and then come out against Sham. And there was another great horse this year in Sham, and Sham was born in the wrong year. He was a wonderful horse who was born in the wrong year. Secretariat won the Derby in record Derby time. Secretariat won the Preakness in record time. He was deemed the super horse. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, but he was on the cover of Time and Newsweek at a time when being on the cover of Time and Newsweek as a sports figure, which Secretariat is, was unheard of. Being on the cover of all three, Secretariat became a national story leading up to this Belmont. Could Secretariat finally prove that you could still win the Triple Crown? It had not been won in 25 years. Horse after horse had won the first two. I think 7 or 8 times the horses had won the first two and not won the Belmont. And what made this story so much special was the way the race unfolded. There were only 5 horses in the race because pretty much the rest of the 3-year-olds had felt, listen, we don't belong. It's Secretariat and it's Sham. And Sham really wanted to take a piece out of Secretariat. And I believe actually got to the point where if he was going to get beat, he wanted to make sure that Secretariat also got beat. That's how much animosity there was building up from the Sham people towards Secretariat. Now, Secretariat, who had run from the back of the pack with big explosive moves for most of his career, had gone to the front in the Preakness and won. So now you're running the 1.5-mile Belmont. And Secretariat leaving the number 2 horse, but leaving from the inside post, goes to the front. And Sham, of course, goes to the front. And they go to the quarter in 23-3, which is pretty snappy time. Not outrageous, but pretty snappy time if you go in 1.5 miles. They go to the half in 46 and change. Now they're cooking. Now they have left the rest of the field for dead, and they are way out in front, and it's Sham and Secretariat noses apart. And now they go to the 3/4, which is 6 furlongs. 6 furlongs is halfway through the race, and they run the 6 furlongs head to head, nose to nose, battling in 109 and change, which is lightning fast, which is a time that wins most sprints. That is a fast sprint, 109 and change. So now you're watching that race and you're saying, these 2 horses have killed each other. There's no way they can finish this race. They have run each other off their feet. How are they gonna finish? And then it happened. And then what happened was a sporting event that will be remembered and revered for the rest of time. It's a sporting event that some people, I mean, legendary people, athletes, champions have called the greatest single performance of any kind by any entity ever. 109 and change, Secretariat starts to leave Sham and goes to the mile in 134. And now Secretariat has opened 8, and Secretariat has opened 10, and Secretariat has opened 14 lanes. And Sham now is passed by the closers because Sham is physically dead on his feet. Very good horse, but he has given everything he had. While is Secretariat tiring? No, he's running faster than he had run before. And now he's up 12 lanes and 16 lanes. And they hit the turn and he starts to expand it. And he turns for home and he's 20 lengths in front. And he continues to widen and run faster and faster and faster until he hits the wire in a world record time. Not only a world record time, but broke the record for a mile and a half by 2 3/5 seconds. That's 13 lengths that he broke the world record by. Chick Anderson, the announcer that day, made one of the great calls ever as he said, this is and hit the wire. He put him at the wire, I think, at 26 or 7 lengths in front. I think 26. He was actually 31 lengths in front when he hit the wire. You remember the famous picture of Turcotte looking back over his shoulder? Um, he beat the field by 31 lengths. He not only won the Triple Crown, he set the world record for the mile and a half, a record he broke by 2 3/5 seconds. Every fifth of a second in racing is a length. That's 13 lengths. Now, Chick Anderson made the call and said, this time is so unbelievable. It'll not only last, it may last forever. How prophetic was that call? Nobody has ever even remotely approached 2 minutes and 24 seconds for a mile and a half. Never even approached it. Easy Goer ran a great Belmont. His time was 2:26 and change, which is still 13, 14 lengths behind Secretariat. Nobody has ever, and horse racing records have been evaporated. They've been destroyed, just like every record is destroyed as we advance, as horses get better bred and they get better equipment and they get better food and better care and everything else, and every athlete's the same way. The times get faster. Nobody has ever approached. That day, that horse ran a race that no horse has ever approached in the history of racing. That was the perfect performance by the perfect machine. And that's why Secretariat is revered the way he is. Because that he not only won the Triple Crown, He set the track record in the Derby, he set the track record in the Preakness, and then he set the world record in the Belmont, running only against his own steam in a race that most horsemen would tell you is virtually impossible to do. In the movie, if you've watched the movie, the actor who's playing Pancho Martin is just and he was a great horseman, okay? He's trained for Sigmund Summers, who owns Sham, and Sigmund Summers, if you know the North Shore Towers, he actually built the North Shore Towers, and he was a very prominent owner at the time. You see him in the movie say, "That's impossible." To run 23:46, 109, and then sprint off and leave the field by 31 lengths is something that you could never see and will never see again. We've never seen a horse perform like that ever. People were crying because they knew they had seen something so unbelievable, a performance of such impressive nature that there was no way even to calculate how impressive it was. And it is still that impressive today. If you watch it, you're just like, "How is this horse doing this?" Which is where the legend of Secretariat came from. And that was today, back in 1973, as he won the Triple Crown for the first time since 1948. And then we had a couple of Triple Crown winners come right after him, very good horses. Really, we had some sensational horses. We had Seattle Slew, who was an undefeated Triple Crown winner. Then you had Affirm that won the 3 races against Alida and won the Triple Crown. And then you had a tremendous horse that should have won the Triple Crown, except he had some issues, both from a turn point of an injury and in turn point of a bad jockey ride in the Belmont, with Spectacular Bid, who should have been a Triple Crown winner. He had some great horses during that run. But none of them were Secretariat. 2:24. And if you watch any Belmont, when the race ends, I always look at the time. And it's usually 2:27, 2:28. I told you, Easy Goer, who ran a great race and was vindicated that day, because Easy Goer, if you remember, had lost the first 2 races in very tough fashion to Sunday Silence, who was a great horse. They were both great horses. Now, the knock on Easy Goer was the only one in New York. But Easy Goer came to his home track, trained by the legendary Shook McGahee, and just put on an incredible display, winning the Belmont going away and beating Sunday Silence, and ran one of the great Belmonts of all time. But it paled in comparison, like they all do, to the great Secretariat, who ran that race today, back in 1973. We'll see you tonight.